One of the things that's most important in the new manual is the section that comes next, which is simply titled Living the Total Consecration. Obviously, this is a simple chapter of a few pages. It is not meant to be comprehensive. A full comprehensive manual for living the consecration would be several volumes long. But it is important to at least begin sketching an outline of what some of the crucial elements of living the consecration really are. Because again, more often than not, when someone goes through this process or has gone through the process over the years, the question is very naturally, now what? Where do I go with this? How do I move with this? One thing that I hope is clear from the discussion so far is some of that now what should already be answered. We keep doing the movements we've learned right here. That's important. The 33 days are at the service of inculcating fundamental spiritual movements that we learn and master and try to move forward with. So we don't stop doing those. That's number one. We don't keep going back to the manual necessarily, but we don't stop doing the movements that we've learned. However, then, in speaking of concretely, what things do we need to keep in mind as we live the consecration once we've made it? We'll follow Father de Montfort himself. The first thing St. Louis de Montfort talks about after finishing to speak about making an act of consecration is renewing it. Already right here we see the fundamental insight. He doesn't understand what happens on day 34 as the end of anything at all. It's a movement that needs to be continually renewed, remade, reappropriated. And why? Well, those of you who are married, if your I do is only on your wedding day, it's not going to get you very far, will it? It may not be said so solemnly a week later, but it needs to be said. In whatever quiet and humble, but arguably perhaps deeper way. And the I do of 10 years later, again, well, maybe not so formally, maybe not so public, is likely to be a richer and a fuller I do than that first on the original day of the wedding. That first I do is the seed that produces the deeper one years later. But that depth comes only in the lived experience of those years. It's the same thing with the act of total consecration. When the prayer is first said, when the act of consecration is first made, it's like that. It's tending toward completeness. It intends completeness. It reaches for total belonging. But it doesn't have total belonging in its grasp yet. That's what renewing the act of consecration is about. And there are a couple ways to think about renewal. The first is this. Every year on that same feast day, with some formality, it's important to renew the act of consecration that we've made. Okay? That doesn't necessarily mean going through the whole 33 days again. It can involve that. Okay? But it doesn't necessarily mean that. But it is important to take some time and to prepare ourselves, if it's even for a week. And how can I do that? It's 33 days here. How can I do it in a week? Think of it this way. The piece has 4 fundamental elements, right? Take a day and linger with renouncing the spirit of the world. Even pick one of the days from the book for a challenge, or read the reflections and say the litany. The next day, move toward knowledge of ourselves and do the same thing. Take another day, knowledge of Mary, and another day, knowledge of Jesus. Because we don't always have 33 days neatly coinciding with our feast day every year. But we can often get 4 days or 4 evenings. If I'm making a weekend retreat, Friday night, I empty myself of the spirit of the world. Through Saturday, I do the other movements, and Sunday at Mass, I renew my act of consecration. There's a beautiful portability in Father de Montfort's spirituality when we recognize the movements and pay attention to the movements precisely as movements. And that allows us to go through a formal period of preparation to renew without necessarily doing 33 days that we don't have. It also allows us to do a more formal renewal more frequently, precisely because of the portability. And for those of us who belong to groups who have made the consecration together, maybe all we can do is get together for a weekend retreat or a day of recollection. But a consecration retreat or day of recollection can easily be built around the 4 movements. Is the time 33 days? No. But does it have to be 33 days? No, it doesn't. Regular and continual renewal is the important value, not frequent repetition of a 33-day process. That's not to say there's never a value in repeating the 33 days. Simply that there are more ways of renewing the consecration than by simply repeating the 33 days. Next, the most important act of renewal for Father de Montfort is daily renewal. Obviously, you can't go through a 33-day process to do a daily renewal. Okay? Daily, explicit renewal. And Father de Montfort doesn't even recommend saying this long prayer every day. He gives us, first in Latin, and then in French, translated now into English, a short formula to use on a daily, an occasional, the kind of thing we can breathe out multiple times in the course of a day. In Latin, tuus totus ego sum. John Paul II reverses the first 2 words in his famous motto, totus tuus. Tuus totus ego sum. I am all yours. In French, Father de Montfort expands a little bit and says simply, I am all yours, and all that I have is yours, O my Jesus, through Mary, your most holy mother. And that formula is provided in the book in both Latin and in English. That's the kind of prayer we can easily say getting out of bed in the morning. That's the kind of prayer that can be said right before a crisis point in the middle of the day when I'm about to blow up on somebody who's been standing on my last nerve for the last hour. You know, it's the kind of thing that is so simple, and yet what does it do? It focuses my attention. That's the point of this. It refocuses my attention so I don't forget what I'm about. What am I about? I am all yours. So renewal is the first and most fundamental practice, most fundamental way we live the consecration is simply by renewing it, by appropriating it on a daily basis and making it our own. Another marvelous way of renewing the act of total consecration is at Holy Communion. And what better time? What better time than when we're receiving our Lord to turn immediately to Our Lady and place in her safekeeping this great gift that we have just received, intimacy with Jesus himself. And to sit in the presence of Jesus and Mary and to say, I am all yours. Recognizing that Jesus comes to me, and what does Jesus say to me in Holy Communion? I am all yours. And in this marvelous mutual self-gift to renew the act of consecration. And here we let this beautiful spirituality of Father de Montfort enrich and deepen this great sacramental richness which is ours as Catholics, and we allow Father de Montfort's spirituality to be enriched by the Eucharist. And it's a marvelous, marvelous way of doing so. In fact, Father de Montfort was so enamored of the power of this devotion precisely at the moment of Holy Communion, he even recommends, following something he read and just loved in the writings of another spiritual author, the habit of saying the Magnificat at the moment of Holy Communion. You know, that great hymn of the woman pregnant with salvation, to let that be on the lips of our hearts at this moment of sacramental intimacy with the Lord.